Hey guys, so in this video we are going to talk about empowering people. So let's get into it. What do I mean about empowering people? Well, something that I've noticed quite a few times is that whenever you are teaching something or you're trying to explain a topic or a concept to somebody, especially if you're not just surrounded by people who know absolutely nothing basically, and you have these sort of people who know almost as much as you do and maybe even a little bit more, but some people seem to lack something that I think is very important, and that is to understand the goal of teaching. Now, what do I mean about the goal of teaching? Well, I mean that a lot of the times when a really shitty teacher is the sort of teacher who doesn't understand the process of learning something. And the process of learning something, because I've met them so many times, and this is especially true for people in the more technical fields, such as in programming. It's actually one of the major reasons why I want to kind of break this. I want to break this trend, because I'm so tired of... I had a very similar sort of situation at my university where we had people, and not just the university, I've had so many teachers who don't understand this. The goal when you're teaching somebody something is not to teach them everything that they need to know. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of the teachers that I see burn and fail and even in articles, bloggers who make this mistake over and over and over. It kind of depends, of course, on the audience, but if you are aiming towards empowering somebody or making somebody understand a concept, you cannot have the approach that you're going to teach them absolutely everything about the subject, because completeness is not as important as empowering somebody. Now, a little while back, I made a few videos where I had a few questions basically about from my perspective, what should be taught to children in school and so forth in terms of programming. And I made it hopefully very clear to everybody that I think that computer science and things of this nature is not something that you should teach to kids. And I don't think that languages such as C or C++ or whatever is the sort of language that you should teach to children. When I define a child, I basically talk about anybody who is very young children from, say, age 8, 10 up to, say, 16 or something like that. Because the thing is that although, yes, it is true that to be a true master of computer science or programming, you will need to understand these sort of things. It's not the right moment to teach somebody that sort of thing. You have to build a foundation on things. So I have a few people who interact with me on the channel and kind of tell me that, oh yeah, but you forgot to speak about these things. You should have talked about those things, and you should have mentioned that thing. And I kind of go, I get that, guys. I know all these things that you're telling me. I get it, but you have to remember that when you and I are speaking through this little mobile phone of mine, I only have so much time to relay information to you before you click away and you start watching something else. That means that I am now forced to make a choice. Do I try to teach you absolutely everything and touch on every topic because that's the way to teach you absolutely everything? Or do I try to reach you? Do I try to empower you? Now, what do I mean about empowering you? Well, I argue that as a professional or as a teacher, you should have, in my opinion, you should have gone through the process of learning a subject to the point where you can distill down everything about that topic into a pipeline, basically, where you know that the most important thing to start off with is going to be a certain set of things, certain things. And if you are a true master of teaching, you will understand that it's more important for you to give the student the information that the student needs, so that the student can see a red thread through everything that they're doing. To make the student feel as if they are empowered to be able to use the knowledge that they just acquired from you in a real way. One of the worst things you can do is to go a completely theoretical, and I actually argue that's why people can't really get into mathematics and these sort of things, because the way that we teach it is basically all in theory, and nobody and very few people I've ever met actually find that they can in a very real way see how this is going to be relevant to their lives, because humans are very naturally interested in things that they see has a real impact and a real value to their own life. I will argue that most people will feel that it's useful to know how to drive a car, but very few people think that it's going to be as relevant for them to learn how higher level mathematics work, even though in theory, the higher order mathematics and the knowledge that they would gain from being really good at that would be much more powerful for them than just knowing how to drive a car. Now, I argue that the same thing is true for everything, and that's where what I'm trying to sell you on here. When you teach something as technical as programming, the goal is not for you to teach the student everything that there is to know about programming or a single topic, because there's simply too much to be learned. You can spend an entire lifetime and you will still not know absolutely everything. And your definition of what is important may differ, so I encourage you, go out and start teaching people your style or your way of thinking. My way of thinking, my style of teaching, is that I go for the thing that I know is going to give the student the biggest sensation of empowerment. I want them to know the things that they need to know in order to reach the goal that they most likely have in front of themselves, which means that if somebody asks me, Frederick, how do I become a full stack developer? Then I will tell them all the things. I will not touch on every single possible way that you can achieve the goal of becoming a full stack developer. I am going to use my expertise, my seniority, and I will put it all together in my head, and I will say, considering the student's current situation, I think that this is the best way for them to achieve that goal. It's not the only way, but it's the fastest way for them to get there. That's why I sometimes sound a little bit opinionated when I say that, hey, you should start with JavaScript, for example, as your first language. Is JavaScript the perfect programming language for every situation? Absolutely not. But I have made a judgment call on behalf of the student and said, this is the way to go. Because the certainty that I can give them, that sensation of, I have a goal now, I know where I should go. I make it clear to the student that this is not the only way, but I think that this is the best option for you right now. Being able to not mess around with all the different options, because the student doesn't care about every single option. They want a sense of direction and empowerment so that they can reach their goals. That is more important than trying to teach them all the things and all the options and all of it. If a student is truly interested in learning all of the options, they will come back to you with follow-up questions. This is why I make these comparison videos. Languages, comparing languages against each other, so that if students are truly interested in another programming language, they can hear my thoughts about the two and compare them. So that's at least my style of teaching. So I urge you, if you're watching this, when I say something that is definitive, you have to remember that there are always other viewpoints. There's always other alternatives. All I can tell you is that I put a lot of thought into trying to give you the sort of guidance that will not give you, it's not focused on teaching you absolutely everything. It's focused on getting you from where you are today to where you want to be the quickest. And then you can, because trust me, the way that it works is that it has a snowballing effect. This is what I think that bad teachers don't understand. They're afraid that if they don't teach the student absolutely everything, they're going to miss out. That's not what I've found. That's not how it works. The way it works is that you give the student something small to start with. to build up an interest, and that builds momentum, and the snowball starts to grow and grow and grow, and the student will very quickly get to a point where the snowball is in such high velocity that they will start acquiring knowledge that outpace you as the teacher. You will not be able to keep up with them. They are going to learn things that most likely they can come back and teach you, because that's how real, true, passionate learning works. It's not about teaching absolutely everything up front. It's about teaching the most important things that will get the student inspired to go out and do their own learning, to do their own research. And if you're lucky and if you're good at what you do, your students will thank you for that. Because trust me, so many potential programmers, mathematicians, physicists, so many gifted people are lost because some teacher tried to teach them every single irrelevant thing to their situation up front, instead of trying to light a fire of passion that encourages and gives the student an incentive to perform lifelong learning. That's at least how I think about it. Have a great day.